My name is Eleanor. I am 92 years old. I was born in 1933, which means I came into this world during the Great Depression, and the world I was born into was not soft. There was no cushion. There was no safety net. My mother made soup out of things you would not recognize as soup ingredients today. My father walked 4 miles to work every morning because there was no money for the bus and because work, any work, was something you were grateful for and not something you complained about. I grew up understanding at a very deep level, the kind of level that gets into your bones and stays there, that life does not owe you anything, not comfort, not fairness, not happiness, not a single solitary thing, and somehow, understanding that completely freed me. I want to talk to you today about the thing I see everywhere when I look at the world you are all living in. And what I see is this. I see a generation of people who are in tremendous pain and who have no idea why. You have more than any generation in history. More food, more medicine, more entertainment, more options, more ways to connect with other human beings across the entire planet at any hour of the day or night. And you are lonelier than any generation I have ever witnessed. You are more anxious, more depressed, more uncertain about who you are and what you are supposed to be doing and whether any of it matters. And I have been sitting with that observation for years now, turning it over in my mind the way you turn over a stone to see what is underneath. And what I have come to believe, after 92 years of watching human beings try to live, is that we have made a catastrophic mistake. A quiet, well-intentioned, catastrophic mistake. We have tried to remove difficulty from life. And in doing so, we have accidentally removed the very thing that makes life livable. Let me tell you about my marriage because I think it will help you understand what I mean. I married a man named Harold in 1955. I was 22 years old. He was 24. We had known each other for 8 months. My mother thought we were rushing. His mother thought I was too opinionated for a wife, which is a thing that people said out loud in 1955 and meant as a criticism, which still makes me laugh. Harold and I were married for 58 years before he died, and I want to be very honest with you about those 58 years because I am tired of the way people talk about long marriages like they are some kind of gentle, sunlit thing. Our marriage was not sunlit. It was real. It had seasons that were so dark and so cold that I was not sure either one of us was going to make it through them. It had years where we were so disconnected from each other that we felt like strangers sharing a house and pretending not to notice. It had arguments that lasted days and silences that lasted weeks and moments where I looked at this man across the breakfast table and thought, I do not know if I like you very much right now. And it also had this. It had 58 years of someone knowing me, not the version of me I showed the world, not the competent, composed, holding it together version, the real one, the frightened one, the one who cried in the bathroom so the children wouldn't hear, the one who doubted herself constantly and hid it under a very convincing performance of confidence. Harold knew that woman, and he stayed. And I knew his version of that too. I knew his failures and his fears and the things he was ashamed of and the dreams he had given up and the ones he was still quietly carrying. And I stayed. And what got built between us over those 58 years, through all of it, the beautiful and the terrible and the mundane, was something that I do not have an adequate word for. It was not romance, although there was romance. It was not friendship, although he was my closest friend. It was something more structural than either of those things. It was like we had built a house together, beam by beam, argument by argument, forgiveness by forgiveness. And that house was the safest place I have ever been in my entire life. You cannot build that house quickly. You cannot build it carefully. You cannot build it while keeping one foot out the door just in case something better comes along. You build it by staying, by choosing, over and over and over again, to stay and to work and to forgive and to try again tomorrow. And I am watching your generation swipe left on that house before the foundation is even poured. I am watching you leave relationships the moment they require something difficult from you. And I want to shake you gently by the shoulders and say, the difficult part is not a sign that something is wrong. The difficult part is where the real thing gets built. Now, I also want to talk to you about motherhood, because I had 4 children and the world has some very strange ideas about what that means and what it costs and whether it is worth it. I had my first child at 23, my last at 31, and I want to be honest, I lost myself for a while in those years. I don't mean that as a complaint. I mean it as a fact. When you are raising small children, especially in an era when there was no conversation about a mother's needs or a mother's identity or a mother's anything, you just pour yourself into them and you trust that somewhere underneath all that pouring, you still exist. And there were years when I wasn't entirely sure I did. But here is what I gained that I could not have gained any other way. I gained the experience of loving something more than myself. And that sounds simple when I say it out loud, but it is not simple. It is actually one of the most radical and transformative things a human being can do, because we come into this world fundamentally oriented around ourselves, our needs, our comfort, our survival, and then something arrives, this small, completely helpless, impossibly demanding thing, and it reorganizes you entirely. It rewrites your priorities at the cellular level, and if you let it, if you really surrender to it, instead of fighting it, it makes you bigger. It makes you capable of things you did not know you were capable of. It teaches you a patience and a ferocity and a tenderness that you cannot learn from a book or a podcast or a meditation retreat. You learn it by being needed completely by someone who cannot yet speak. My youngest son, Robert, was born with a condition that meant his early years were filled with hospitals and uncertainty and the particular exhaustion of a fear you never fully put down. And I will tell you that those years, as hard as they were, made me someone I am genuinely glad to be, because I had to find reserves I didn't know I had.